in that kind of society, what usually went lost was the animal. The animal would wander off the property. The Gemara says, "Hagojas ein lam chazoka." If normally you're in possession of something, possession is 100% of the law. But if you're in possession of somebody else's animal, it's not. Why? Because there's a chance the animal wandered off its owner's property and wandered into your property. So just because you're in possession doesn't mean you have it. If you're wearing a garment, anything that doesn't go by itself, how do you had to steal? Just this person is a chazaka, he doesn't steal. So the chazaka tells me he either was gifted to him or he purchased it. Okay. Yeah. Left off Nun Dalit. Left off Maharal Nun Dalit. We left off yesterday that if a person goes and violates Eishes Ish, commits adultery, the reason why he's Yored Veina Oler, he goes to Gehenna, he doesn't ascend, is because when it Ish v'ish, when it says Yesh Shechina Beinayim, is Yud and Hey, right? The Yud is in the Ish and the Hey is in the Isha. So that's Shikoh. That if a woman, God forbid, so what does that mean? When the Yud and the Hey are together, so that's the Shechina. If a woman commits adultery, the Shechina is not there. So actually what he did was he defiled the Shechina. He drove the Shechina out. He destroyed that setting for the Shechina to be there. Ki Hashem hazeh bein ish leisha v'hu mezavig osam yachadu v'chibur shneim hu al yidei Hashem. What brings about that bonding between the husband and wife? It's the Yud Kei. Man was created, was formed with wisdom. You don't appreciate the chokhmah, God's wisdom. If you go and you give a name which is a pejorative name, it's even more extreme. Who connected Shem Tov, who Hashem Ro, instead of we say Shem Tov is Ola Gabeim, he replaced it with Hashem Ro. Who Pogi Madrega Ga Ashenikro Shem Tov Ola Gabeim, who Mechane Shem Ro. Now we left off here. Ki Elu Gimel Averus Lamalo Min Ol Mazer. These three sins are outside the physical world. The physical world is all circumstantial situation. These three aspects are something which are permanent. It's not necessarily connected only to this world. It has to do with the spiritual world. Kod, Shechina, the Chokhmah, the Torah, who the human being is, that has to do with the Neshama, the Jewish soul. Mechana Shem Raz also, because instead of the Shem Tov which identifies and quantifies the person, you've replaced it with something which is disgraceful. Ki ba'odem gimamaylo Shem nivdolim hamale elyon ala kol hu Hashem Moshe's bar eitzam chal Hashem. The first distinction we have is that the Jew has to do with God, right? So that's our connection, that's outside of the realm of this world, right? I mean, we're physical beings in our physicality, but in terms of the imprint, God's imprint upon us, right? We ourselves are we have that connection. Our value is not our physicality. Our intrinsic value is our spirituality. The Goy, his value is purely his physicality. Comes from it was completed at Sinai. It started with the Avos HaKadoshim. That because we're the children of the Avos, that's the reason we have that. Okay? No, that was initially. That's it. That was the ultimate level of being. No. What is his essence? He has a neshama because he's a human being. But how does it manifest itself? He's subject. He can't go out of the physical. If he's Nesivos Olam, he makes it out to some degree. What do you think closest? The smallest people always. We're the smallest. Why? Because our value is not our number. It's not the quantity. Why, if you save a Jew, it's like saving the whole world? Saving a goy is not like saving the whole world. Why is that? Because a Jew is even more than the whole world in terms of his value. Because something of spiritual nature is unlimited. It's not. But if your value is your physicality, so it's limitations. What's a human being versus the universe? If you're a speck, you're less than a speck. Right? You're meaningless. The person becomes a Jew. So that's a separate discussion. Like your question, why could a human being convert and a dog can't convert to be a Jew? Right? Even though there's some places they call the dog rabbi so-and-so, or reverend. It happens. Okay? I'm preparing Howard to go back to Israel. Okay. Kamoshi bar itzel Maharal Hashem kama makomos shebi'anu ze minyan Hashem shubo al hasichli bilvad. Hashem hu shem hamahus. The name of a person, right? That we discussed. It identifies the destiny of a person. What is your potential? What is your destiny? What's your value? What's your purpose? Hashem hu inyan hamahus. V'oshu inyan kol shem. V'akach hu atzelem shel pnei ha'odom. You have the tzelem Elokim. You have the image. Shu lamata mizeh v'akach chibur hazochav ha'nekeva. Shu nechshav chibur chomer v'tzura. For Madrega Shlish Lamato, right? He's saying something interesting. This the Maharal speaks about by Altar B'Sicha Misha. You shouldn't speak excessively with a woman. So he goes to explain over there that a woman, her makeup there's a much more heavier emphasis on her physicality than her spirituality. So a man, where the thrust of his being is a spirituality, that's why he has Torah and he has greater levels of obligations within the spiritual arena. Therefore, by being involved with the woman too much, he's actually minimizing that. But factually, what is the ultimate? Man has to get married, has to attach himself, has to find the Aveda. When he finds the Aveda, then you're combining the physical with the spiritual. That's what he says here. So it's like the soul coming into this world, entering into the body, which becomes a composite. The husband and wife, when they're together, they're one entity. They're a composite. The woman representing the physical, and the husband representing the spiritual. Right? We're not saying woman doesn't have obligations. But her ultimate manifestation of her spiritual, that it's able to take on value, is only when it's attached to the husband. It's interesting. Like the neshama without a body means nothing, and a body without a soul means nothing. So it's only the attachment of two together. It's interesting. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh says in one location that attaching the neshama to the body, the neshama is all spiritual, the body is all physical, is more difficult than associating fire and water. Just as fire and water cannot coexist, because one extinguishes the other, that's how different the soul and the body are. One is earthy, the other is the ultimate in spirituality. How do you connect the two? But somehow they're linked, and they function in conjunction with one another, and they become one entity. He says, because Hashem goes there. God decreed, that's why it happens. So I'm saying, and this is the Ezer Kenegdo. Makes sense. I mean, what we're saying. Why is a woman the Ezer? She is the assistant. She's the helpmate. So the Medrash says, if Adam would have to prepare his own food, and he'd have to spin his own thread, to make his own cloth, to make his own garments, when he's going to have time to focus on his avodas Hashem? He's going to be involved in the physical. So therefore, that's the Ezer Kenegdo. He has a wife. She provides all that for him. So he should be able to focus on his spirituality. So what is the emphasis of the woman? To provide for his physicality. Is ein kemach ein Torah, right? Why did God create bread, right? You have physical needs. You have to be sustained. So that's the two.
And a man without a woman,
He's distracted.
Spiritual heights.
Woman is created spiritual.
For that reason. But it's not only that. The woman's ultimate achievement in spirituality is when she attaches herself to the husband. That's her ultimate level of accomplishment.
So she's able to combine the two. Because
You know, it's interesting. I once mentioned the Shaloch. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Klal shel lo alechem levad yichya adam." Right? Man does not live on bread alone. Ki al motzi pi Hashem yichya adam. So he explains over there that in food, what the food we understand sustains the body, but it hasn't sustained the neshama. Right? So he says in food, besides having the physical nourishment, you have Seitzei kedusha. Everything is laced with a certain element of kedusha. So when you ingest the bread, the physical part of the bread sustains the body. The Seitzei, the sparks of holiness, which is spiritual, which Hashem implants in every part of existence, that's what sustains the neshama. That's what it means. Lo alech levad yichel yodom. It's not the bread alone, the physical alone, because you have to sustain not only your physicality, you have to sustain your neshama. That's the motzi pi Hashem. Because Hashem said within the physical, there is a certain spiritual element.
even if you eat the bread without a bracha, that's taking a step further. That's why I assume the bracha comes in.
Wait. I once mentioned Yisod V'Shir Shavoda, based on the Zohar. What is the ultimate accomplishment of Klal Yisrael? Hashem planted these sparks of holiness throughout the world, and especially in food. And he says, the tastier food is, that's an indication it has a greater concentration of Seitzei kedusha. The less tasty it is, it has less of a concentration. He says, what's the tastiest food that exists? Meat. Meat is, in terms of a human being, is the closest thing to a human being, right? Human being has the animal, but we were infused with a neshama. An animal is the physical; it's without the soul. It has a life source. So he says meat has the greatest concentration of kedusha in it. He says, and what is the ultimate objective? That to extract the kedusha from the physical, and if you extract it properly, it becomes absorbed in your neshama, and that's part of the enhancement of your soul. But when does it happen? When does this extraction process take place? That it becomes absorbed in your neshama? That's if you eat l'shem shamayim. If you eat for the sake of God, not as a hedonist, not as an animal, just to satisfy your physical desire, but if you eat as just physical desire, it goes in and goes out, and it's recycled. It goes back in the ground, and then again, it comes back into what grows afterwards. So until all that is extracted, or a sufficient amount is extracted, that's part of also the coming of Mashiach. When we achieve that critical mass of Kedusha within ourselves, that's when the world is sufficiently perfected to take it to the very end. That's the Yisod V'Shir Shavoda.
Well, the original creation is vegetarian.
Okay, not a problem. There's a new area of medicine now. The doctors are focusing lately on nutrition. It's very simple. The reason why you need the meat is what takes, because man, after Eitz Hadas, his neshama became depleted. So it has to be compensated. It has to be compensated. As a result of that, but before he was wholesome. He just needed a slight degree of infusion to bring him to that perfect level. First a little bit, but even after the Chet, it wasn't right away. Correct? It was only after Noach. But again, because those 10 generations represented what it was, were connected to that original level, that more advanced level. Even after the Chet, if you read the Ramchal, there were still 10 generations that they could have made changes during there. Once those 10 generations passed, it was gone. It's a new era. And that new era functions in a much lesser level. They could have gone back and corrected many things, which they didn't. But once that 10 generation period closed, it's a new era. That's why people didn't live as long. The dimension of people were no longer, they weren't giants. It was a whole different reality of existence.
Rather, the holy sages and even holy rabbis now, that they only have meat on Shabbos a little bit.
That's very different. That's very different.
They don't eat it during the week.
That's very different. It has nothing to do with vegetarian. It's only because they won't even eat fish. They won't even eat fish during the week. They only eat vegetables, even fish. Now, why? Because something of that special value should be reserved for Shabbos. It's weaning themselves from the physical. It's because not to indulge. That's the reason why they do it. I once told you. Rabbi Kaplan, you should be well, special Jew. So when he used to come to you, when he came here, he always stayed in my home. He started to come to my home, let's say, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So my wife would show him, she would prepare chicken for him. He would eat it. About 10 years later, he said he doesn't eat chicken. But fish would be okay. So she used to prepare fish. Some years pass, only grains and vegetables during the week. Grains, fruit, and vegetables. Doesn't eat even fish. Anything that he has on Shabbos, what bakes it, doesn't have during the week. That's what the nutritionist told to Howard. Be more religious and it'll be okay.
Can you make that connection with that Torah Mark? If you say that meat is the highest kedusha, level kedusha, he's abusing the whole thing. Is there a connection there? Can we use that as a connection?
You don't have to be so sophisticated to say he's a glutton.
Right.
You know why a glutton is a glutton? Because he doesn't want to extract the kedusha. Is that why he's a glutton? He's a glutton because he's behaving like.
Right.
It's worse. It's worse than Abba Shimshon. He's stealing.
So it's a chil Hashem.
Yeah, but what about the wine? Talking about wine also.
Well, we always make a kiddush when there's something special. So he's abusing the wine also. Okay, all right.
Getting back to Alan's question, so if you don't say bracha on the food, what's the value that the food has in your body? Does it have?
No, it'll nourish you, but you're not going to extract kedusha from that.
Not going to get any kedusha.
No, definitely not.
It has no value other than physicality.
Right, right.
You'll recognize it. Saying the bracha, recognize it as the source.
So that it gives it a spiritual value. That gives it a spiritual value. But even then, if it's not, you could say the bracha, if you say truly the bracha with the way it should be said, even though the main point is to satisfy your desire, but there's a certain element that it's a recognition. That right? But even then, I don't know how much you extract. You have to eat literally l'shma, l'shem shemayim.
So really you're saying the bracha, you say the bracha, you eat to say the bracha, you don't say the bracha.
I told you the story with the Sfas Emes. Sfas Emes. There's not Sfas Emes. This Sfas Emes, even if you don't understand certain things, you can understand the story of this Sfas Emes. Certain rabbis say Sfas Emes from the pulpit. It's words, because to really grasp what he says, it's another level. There was a story, the Sfas Emes took an apple, and he said a bracha with kavanah, he ate the apple. So another chosid sees this, he says the same thing, takes the apple, also with the kavanah, appropriates and eats the apple. So Sfas Emes says, calls him over, he says, I want to explain the difference between you and me. When I ate the apple to say the bracha. When you ate the apple, it was for the apple, and the only way you were able to eat the apple was you had to say the bracha. That's the difference. Okay.
We started learning this morning. I was talking about
committing adultery and the Shekhinah leaving. Is that something similar to what happened when we look at the brachas that Yaakov gave Reuven, where he said that he made a reference to the Shekhinah leaving when he switched to beds? Or is that just completely different? Because he makes a reference to the Shekhinah not being there anymore. Right.
He desecrated, yeah, because the Shekhinah was, but it had nothing to do with adultery. Also, the main reason why it wasn't qualified because he was impulsive. You can't be in a position of leadership if you're impulsive, because you realize what you did. You tampered with the Shekhinah, right? Because the Shekhinah is where Yaakov puts his bed. If you move the bed, it's like moving the Beis HaMikdash to Tel Aviv. So that's what he did. You can't do that. So because it's something which is so irresponsible, that's the reason why you can't be you can't be a melech. You can't be in a leadership position.
The reference there to the Shekhinah moving.
What? I know. You have to speak to Brian. Okay. Okay.